What if everything you thought you knew about Mary, the mother of Jesus, was based on a carefully constructed lie that's endured for over 2,000 years? Have you ever wondered why the Gospels tell us almost nothing about Mary's origins or her extraordinary spiritual preparation for perhaps the most pivotal role in human history? This silence is no accident, and today I'm going to reveal what religious authorities have deliberately kept hidden from you for centuries. The story you've been told about Mary being a simple, ordinary young woman suddenly chosen by God is merely the surface of a much deeper, more profound truth. Edgar Cayce, known as the sleeping prophet, accessed information through his remarkable trance states that shatters this simplified narrative. What he discovered about Mary's true origins connects her to ancient civilizations, cosmic councils, and a divine plan that was set in motion thousands of years before the birth of Christ in Bethlehem. Has this ever happened to you? You're sitting in church or reading scripture, and something about Mary's story feels incomplete, like crucial pieces of the puzzle are missing. That nagging feeling is your intuition recognizing the gaps in what you've been taught. The traditional church has maintained an almost complete silence about Mary's spiritual lineage, presenting her as a random vessel chosen solely by divine grace. But why? What truth is so powerful it needed to be concealed for millennia? Stay with me until the end of this video, because what you're about to discover could fundamentally transform your understanding of Christianity, faith, and the divine plan for humanity's spiritual evolution. This isn't just about Mary. It's about understanding how the universe prepares souls for pivotal missions across multiple lifetimes and civilizations. Cayce's revelations suggest that Mary wasn't simply born into her role. She was carefully prepared for it through numerous incarnations in places like ancient Egypt and even Atlantis. She carried within her a celestial code, a spiritual DNA cultivated over thousands of years by secret guardian communities dedicated to preserving the purity necessary for the Christ consciousness to enter our world. What if Mary's virgin birth wasn't just a physical miracle, but the culmination of an ancient spiritual lineage deliberately protected throughout the ages? What if understanding her true origins is the missing key to comprehending Christ's mission on earth? The evidence has been hidden in plain sight, in ancient symbols, artifacts, and esoteric traditions that have survived despite attempts to suppress them. And once you see it, you'll never look at the nativity story the same way again. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the globe, and if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. Now let me take you back thousands of years before Bethlehem, to a time when celestial beings gathered in a council of light to discuss the future of humanity and the soul who would eventually become known as Mary. This council of light understood that bringing the Christ consciousness to earth required more than just a random human vessel. It demanded a soul of exceptional purity, one that had been carefully cultivated across the ages. According to Cayce's revelations, Mary's journey began long before her birth in ancient Judea. Her soul was part of a divine blueprint, a cosmic strategy orchestrated by higher beings to ensure that when the time came for the greatest spiritual transformation in human history, the perfect vessel would be ready. Think about it. Have you ever noticed how the Gospels tell us almost nothing about Mary's childhood, her spiritual development, or her family lineage? Matthew traces Joseph's genealogy in elaborate detail, but Mary's background remains shrouded in mystery. This silence speaks volumes. Cayce believed this omission wasn't a simple oversight, but a deliberate protection of sacred knowledge, a veil drawn over truths that humanity wasn't yet ready to receive. The hidden truth behind Mary's origin reveals a mindset completely different from conventional religious teaching. Her soul didn't emerge from the ordinary flow of human incarnations. Instead, she came from a specific spiritual lineage that had been meticulously maintained through the rise and fall of civilizations, through floods and fires, through the collapse of empires and the birth of nations, all to preserve the energetic purity necessary for receiving and nurturing the Messiah's consciousness. This revelation fundamentally shifts our understanding of the nativity story. The virgin birth wasn't just a physical miracle that happened to an unsuspecting young woman. It was the culmination of an ancient journey, the final stage in a soul's preparation that spanned thousands of years. Behind the scenes of the biblical narrative lies a far more expansive story of cosmic intention and divine orchestration. What's particularly fascinating is how this hidden knowledge was preserved in symbols and coded language throughout ancient art. Look closely at early Christian iconography, and you'll find Mary consistently portrayed with specific celestial symbols, stars, moons, and sacred geometric patterns that hint at her cosmic origins. These weren't merely decorative elements, but deliberate markers left by those who knew the deeper truth. The impact of this understanding transforms not just how we see Mary, but how we comprehend our own spiritual journeys. If the universe prepared one soul so carefully for its mission, might we too be on paths of preparation for purposes we can't yet fully grasp? The decisions we make, the challenges we face, could these be shaping us for roles we haven't yet stepped into? Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring the specific ways Mary's soul was prepared through multiple incarnations in ancient mystery schools and forgotten civilizations. The revelations about her past lives in Egypt, Atlantis, and among the Essenes paint a picture of spiritual development that completely redefines what it means to be chosen by God. If you're feeling a resonance with this hidden knowledge as I share it, write in the comments, "This ancient wisdom speaks to me." According to Cayce's profound insights, Mary wasn't simply a virtuous young woman who happened to be in the right place at the right time. She was, in essence, a perfect matrix of light, a living vessel whose spiritual DNA had been carefully calibrated over countless lifetimes to serve as the ideal conduit for Christ's consciousness to enter our physical realm. Understanding Mary's true origin isn't just an interesting historical footnote. It's essential to comprehending Christ himself and the magnitude of his incarnation. Think of Mary as a sacred technology, her very essence encoded with unique spiritual frequencies that made the miracle of divine incarnation possible. Just as certain rare elements are required to conduct specific types of energy, Mary's soul carried distinctive vibrational patterns that could safely house and nurture the highest spiritual energy ever to enter our dimension without being consumed by it. This perspective transforms our understanding from a simple virgin birth narrative to a sophisticated cosmic operation, millennia in the making. The revelation that truly shifts our paradigm is that these spiritual codes within Mary originated long before her birth in Judea, spanning multiple eras and civilizations that most religious scholars never connect to the Christian story. This cosmic linkage reveals a divine plan far more comprehensive than traditional theology suggests. It's as if we've been reading only the final chapter of an epic saga, missing the intricate backstory that gives it profound meaning and context. Behind the scenes of recorded history, secret communities operated with a sacred mission spanning generations to preserve Mary's predestined spiritual lineage amid an increasingly corrupted world. These guardians understood that the vessel for Christ couldn't emerge from just any bloodline. They employed elaborate rituals, sacred vows, and even geographic isolation to ensure that certain souls remained energetically pure, protected from the spiritual contamination that had infiltrated much of humanity. This revelation brings a transformative understanding to the concept of immaculate. It wasn't merely about physical virginity, but about a soul that had been kept pristine through careful spiritual stewardship across thousands of years. The mystery schools of ancient Egypt, the temple traditions of forgotten Atlantis, and later the Essene communities all played roles in this grand spiritual preservation project. What's particularly illuminating is how these guardians recognized certain children born with special markers, auras of unusual brilliance, birthmarks in sacred patterns, or extraordinary sensitivities to energies beyond the physical realm. These children received specialized education, dietary regimens, and meditation practices designed to further refine their already exceptional spiritual capacities. Mary's preparation included exposure to vibrational technologies now lost to modern science, crystal chambers, sacred geometrical environments, and sound frequencies that restructured her energy field at the quantum level. Each incarnation built upon the previous one, creating a soul vessel of unparalleled clarity and resilience. If these hidden spiritual truths resonate with you, hit subscribe now to join our community of seekers uncovering the ancient wisdom that's been concealed for centuries. The spiritual journey that led to Mary becoming the Mother of Christ reveals a universal principle that applies to each of us. Our souls are being shaped through every experience, every lifetime, potentially preparing us for purposes beyond our current imagination. What unique codes might your soul be carrying? What ancient wisdom lies dormant in your spiritual DNA? If you sense there's more to your life's purpose than meets the eye, type in the comments, "I carry ancient wisdom within me." The guardian communities that preserved Mary's lineage weren't operating merely on physical levels. They were stewards of an elaborate spiritual technology. Their protection methods transcended the visible world, employing energetic shields, sacred geometries, and consciousness techniques that modern science is only beginning to rediscover. These initiates passed secret knowledge through generations, often encoded in myths, symbols, and rituals that appeared ordinary to outsiders but contained profound spiritual instructions for those with eyes to see. What's particularly fascinating about these guardian communities is their understanding that the universe operates through resonance patterns. They knew that certain environments, sounds, foods, and even thoughts could either maintain or disrupt the delicate spiritual frequencies necessary for souls like Mary's to fulfill their cosmic purpose. Their entire way of life, from architecture to daily practices, was designed to create protected fields where these special frequencies could be nurtured. This revelation opens a doorway to an even more profound question. If Mary was one of these specially prepared souls, how many others might be walking among us today? Souls with silent but decisive roles in humanity's ongoing spiritual evolution. The mindset shift here is powerful. Perhaps we're surrounded by individuals carrying specific cosmic codes activated for this particular moment in human history, each playing unique parts in a divine orchestration we're only beginning to comprehend. You might even be one of them. Have you ever experienced moments of inexplicable knowing? Felt drawn to spiritual traditions or symbols without understanding why? Experienced synchronicities that seem too meaningful to be coincidence? These could be whispers of your own soul's deeper purpose, echoes of ancient wisdom carried within your spiritual blueprint. Behind the scenes of Edgar Cayce's remarkable revelations was his extraordinary ability to access what mystics call the Akashic records, a cosmic library containing the complete history of every soul and all events throughout time. Unlike ordinary research based on physical documents or oral traditions, Cayce's journey into these records happened through deep trance states, where his consciousness could travel beyond the limitations of space and time. In this altered state, He perceived not just historical facts, but living energetic imprints, the actual vibrations of events as they occurred. When Cayce accessed information about Mary, he wasn't merely seeing historical scenes like watching a movie. He was experiencing the actual resonance patterns of her soul journey across multiple incarnations. This explains the vivid details and emotional depth of his accounts. He wasn't theorizing, but directly perceiving the energy signatures imprinted in the cosmic memory field. The transformation this understanding brings to our perspective on spiritual knowledge is revolutionary. It suggests that genuine wisdom isn't just learned through books or teachings, but can be directly experienced through consciousness itself when properly attuned. The barriers between past, present, and future become permeable, revealing a unified field where all knowledge exists simultaneously. If you've ever had moments where you felt connected to knowledge beyond your personal experience, write in the comments, "I've touched the Akashic field." When Cayce descended into the deepest levels of his trance states, one of the most vivid visions he encountered was of a golden light, a radiance unlike anything in ordinary experience, descending upon an ancient temple of unknown architecture. This temple stood in a landscape of extraordinary beauty, surrounded by lush gardens and crystalline waters that seemed to shimmer with consciousness itself. Inside this sacred space, white-robed figures moved in choreographed precision, performing rituals around a child who emanated a quiet luminosity. This child, Cayce understood, was a previous incarnation of the soul that would eventually be known to the world as Mary. The ceremony he witnessed wasn't merely symbolic, but an actual energetic attunement, a calibration of this young soul's vibrational field to harmonize with specific cosmic frequencies. The golden light represented a direct transmission of spiritual codes from higher dimensional realms, embedding patterns of divine receptivity into the very essence of this being. What's particularly revealing about this vision is how it illuminates the hidden mechanics behind spiritual preparation. The traditional narrative of Mary being chosen transforms into something far more profound, a soul that had undergone specific initiatory processes across multiple lifetimes, each one building upon the previous, creating an unbroken continuum of spiritual refinement. In subsequent visions, Cayce perceived Mary enveloped in a remarkable energy field, a luminous cocoon that naturally repelled lower vibrational influences that might contaminate her spiritual purpose. This wasn't simply divine protection granted arbitrarily. It was a field she had cultivated through disciplined practices and teachings received in her participation with advanced spiritual communities throughout her soul journey. Think of it as a spiritual immune system developed through consistent exposure to higher frequencies and purification techniques. The breakthrough insight here is that this field wasn't static, but dynamic, requiring constant nourishment through specific meditations, sacred sounds, and energetic alignments. Mary's daily disciplines, largely unmentioned in biblical accounts, were actually sophisticated spiritual technologies designed to maintain the integrity of this protective field. Without these practices, the field would have weakened, potentially compromising her capacity to later serve as the vessel for Christ consciousness. Mary's spiritual preparation drew from an astonishing diversity of ancient wisdom, traditions. While her connection to the Essene community is sometimes acknowledged in alternative historical accounts, Cayce revealed that her soul had absorbed knowledge from much older civilizations, particularly Atlantis and Egypt. This fusion of esoteric practices gave her a spiritual versatility and resilience that no single tradition could provide. In Egypt, her soul had mastered the science of sacred geometry and vibrational healing. From Atlantis came advanced understanding of crystalline energies and consciousness technology. The Essene practices focused on purification and prophecy, were actually preservations of these much older traditions, maintained through secret lineages during times when such knowledge was suppressed or forgotten by the wider world. This multi-dimensional perspective on Mary's spiritual journey reveals how cosmic wisdom operates across time, not as separate, isolated traditions, but as a continuous stream of knowledge, preserved through initiatory lineages. During humanity's darkest periods, what we see as distinct religious or spiritual systems might actually be fragments of a unified cosmic science, separated only by our limited historical perspective. If you've sensed that the spiritual traditions of our world contain pieces of a greater whole, write in the comments, all wisdom streams from one source. One of the most transformative revelations from Cayce's visions challenges our very understanding of what purity means in a spiritual context. While religious tradition has often framed Mary's purity in terms of physical virginity or moral spotlessness, the deeper truth reveals something far more profound. According to Cayce, Mary's true purity wasn't merely the absence of sin, it was her absolute fidelity to divine purpose, her unwavering alignment with cosmic intention regardless of external circumstances. This represents a complete mindset shift in how we understand spiritual development. Rather than seeing purity as a state of innocence or lack of wrongdoing, we can recognize it as active resonance with higher purpose, a dynamic harmony between individual consciousness and divine will. In Mary's case, this alignment was so complete that there was virtually no resistance between her personal desires and the cosmic plan. This is what made her the perfect vessel, not moral perfection, but perfect spiritual conductivity. When Cayce awakened from these profound trance states, he faced a significant personal dilemma. The revelations he'd received about Mary's true origins and preparation challenged many entrenched religious beliefs of his time. He understood that sharing these insights might attract opposition, skepticism, and even accusations of heresy from traditional religious authorities. Yet he also recognized the tremendous importance of preserving this knowledge for future generations. With remarkable courage, Cayce meticulously documented everything he had witnessed, creating detailed records of each vision, including the symbols, energies, and historical contexts that had been revealed to him. He knew that even if contemporary minds weren't ready to receive these truths, a time would come when humanity's collective consciousness would evolve to a point where these revelations could be properly understood and integrated. The journey of Mary's soul preparation illustrates a cosmic principle that applies to each of us. Our spiritual development doesn't begin at birth but unfolds across a continuum of experiences that shape our essence. Mary's origin can't be pinpointed to a single historical moment, but must be understood as a sequence of lives and missions, each building upon the previous, creating a soul vessel of extraordinary capacity and resonance. The universe literally shaped her soul, step by step, life by life, each incarnation carefully orchestrated to develop specific qualities and abilities necessary for her supreme purpose. In one life, she mastered compassion. In another, spiritual discernment. In yet another, the ability to hold unwavering faith amidst chaos and darkness. Each quality was a necessary component of the spiritual technology required to birth and nurture the Christ consciousness. This perspective reveals the breathtaking scope of divine planning, a cosmic patience that works across millennia, guiding souls through precisely tailored experiences to prepare them for pivotal roles in humanity's evolution. It suggests that what we perceive as random life circumstances might actually be carefully designed opportunities for specific soul development, each challenge and blessing building capacities we may need for purposes not yet revealed to us. Behind the scenes of what appears to be ordinary human life lies an extraordinary tapestry of soul journeys, each one unique, yet interconnected with all others, creating the vast, living mosaic of cosmic evolution. What specific qualities might your soul be developing through your current life? Experiences? If you sense that your challenges and gifts are preparing you for a greater purpose, write in the comments, "My soul is in training." When we fully grasp the implications of Mary's story, we begin to understand that her significance extends far beyond a single historical moment 2,000 years ago. According to Cayce, the divine orchestration behind Mary's preparation reveals patterns and principles that illuminate humanity's entire spiritual destiny. Her journey serves as a cosmic blueprint, showing how the universe prepares vessels of transformation at pivotal moments in our collective evolution. The hidden truth is that we're currently approaching another such pivotal moment. The same divine intelligence that prepared Mary for her world-changing role is now orchestrating a broader awakening, preparing not just one vessel, but potentially millions of souls to embody higher consciousness in our present era. The spiritual technologies and wisdom traditions that shaped Mary's extraordinary capacity are becoming increasingly accessible to ordinary people seeking deeper connection with divine purpose. What's particularly revolutionary about Cayce's revelations is his understanding of Mary's lineage. This wasn't merely a human family line, but represented soul connections passed through generations. Souls who had traveled together through multiple incarnations, bound by sacred contracts and shared cosmic missions. These soul groups formed the invisible foundation of what we perceive as bloodlines, creating energetic patterns far more significant than mere genetic inheritance. Secret spiritual groups throughout history guarded these soul connections, understanding their crucial value to the balance of light and dark forces on our planet. These guardians recognized that certain soul constellations needed protection from corruption, as they served as anchors for specific divine energies that maintained Earth's delicate spiritual ecosystem. Mary's lineage was, perhaps, the most carefully guarded of all, as it was destined to channel the Christ consciousness, the highest vibrational pattern ever to incarnate in human form. Behind the canonical texts we're familiar with existed a much older prophecy, one that predated known biblical writings by thousands of years. This ancient prediction, preserved in mystery schools and esoteric traditions across multiple civilizations, foretold the coming of a woman whose extraordinary spiritual purity would serve as a living bridge between dimensions. Through her, the highest cosmic energy would be able to birth into physical reality, creating a permanent shift in humanity's vibrational potential. This prophecy wasn't limited to a single religious tradition, but appeared in remarkably similar forms across widely separated cultures. From Egyptian temple inscriptions to Vedic texts, from Druidic oral traditions to Native American star knowledge. Each version described a feminine vessel of unprecedented clarity who would enable the incarnation of universal love in human form. The consistent appearance of this prophecy across diverse traditions suggests it originated from a unified source of cosmic knowing accessed by mystics of many paths. What's most transformative about this understanding is recognizing that Mary wasn't simply chosen for her role. She actively participated in her own preparation across many lifetimes. Her journey represents the perfect marriage of divine orchestration and soul cooperation, a dance of cosmic intention and individual free will aligned in perfect harmony. The mindset shift this creates is profound. If we see ourselves as active participants in our own soul development rather than passive recipients of fate, how might that change our approach to life's challenges and opportunities? If you sense that you too are being prepared for a specific role in humanity's awakening, write in the comments, "I am a vessel of divine purpose." The metaphor of Mary as an awaited seed reveals a profound cosmic principle at work in her manifestation. According to Cayce's revelations, she didn't simply appear by random chance at the right historical moment. Her coming was anticipated and prepared for across millennia, like a precious seed carefully preserved through harsh winters and droughts, waiting for precise environmental conditions that would allow it to flourish to its full potential. This perspective transforms our understanding of divine timing and spiritual manifestation. The universe operates with exquisite precision in its orchestration of transformative beings. Just as a master gardener knows exactly when to plant certain seeds based on subtle environmental factors, cosmic intelligence prepared Mary's soul for incarnation at the perfect moment when all necessary conditions, astrological alignments, cultural context, spiritual readiness of humanity, and vibrational frequencies of Earth itself had reached optimal configuration for her mission to succeed. What's particularly fascinating is the energetic protection that surrounded Mary's entire lineage. This wasn't merely spiritual guardianship, but an actual vibrational field, a matrix of subtle energy maintained and reinforced through specific rituals, prayers, and esoteric teachings passed down in secret primarily through the women of her family. These women often didn't fully comprehend the ultimate purpose of their practices, yet they intuited they were preserving something extraordinarily precious for future generations. This energetic field served multiple purposes. It shielded the lineage from lower vibrational influences, maintained specific frequency patterns necessary for the future incarnation of Christ, and created a kind of spiritual beacon that attracted souls of similar resonance to incarnate within the family line, further strengthening its unique qualities. Think of it as a kind of spiritual technology operating through consistent intention and sacred practice rather than mechanical means. The impact of this carefully preserved sacred heritage manifested in Mary's remarkable spiritual sensitivity. Unlike most people who perceive divine guidance as occasional subtle nudges or rare moments of clarity, Mary experienced a continuous crystalline connection with higher dimensions. This wasn't simply good intuition or religious devotion. It was the result of generations of spiritual cultivation that had literally rewired the energetic and neurological pathways of her lineage to serve as clear channels for divine intelligence. This enhanced receptivity made Mary uniquely capable of receiving and housing the Christ consciousness, an energy of such extraordinary power and frequency that it would have overwhelmed or even destroyed a vessel without her specific preparation. The traditional story of the Annunciation takes on new meaning when we understand that Mary's yes to the angel Gabriel wasn't just an act of blind faith, but the culmination of a soul journey specifically designed to enable her complete surrender to and embodiment of divine will. The revelation of Mary's extraordinary heritage invites us to consider the hidden preparations that might be occurring in our own lineages and soul histories. What if certain challenges, gifts, or seemingly random synchronicities in your life are actually part of a carefully orchestrated path preparing you for a specific purpose? What dormant spiritual capacities might you have inherited that are waiting to be activated through your conscious participation? If you've ever felt that your spiritual sensitivity or intuitive abilities seem to come from somewhere beyond your personal experience, write in the comments, "I am awakening my sacred heritage." The most profound revelation about Mary's preparation involves what Cayce described as a celestial code embedded within her very essence. This wasn't merely a metaphorical description, but referred to an actual vibrational signature, a divine encryption of sorts, that she alone carried among humans of her time. This celestial code transcended ordinary genetics, operating at quantum levels where consciousness and physical reality intersect. It enabled her body to sustain frequencies that would normally be impossible for human biology to contain. Think of it as a kind of spiritual DNA upgrade that allowed her physical vessel to house the unprecedented light of Christ consciousness without being consumed by it. This code wasn't simply inherited, it was activated through specific initiatory experiences across multiple lifetimes, each one unlocking another layer of this extraordinary capacity. The virgin birth becomes not just a miracle that happened to Mary, but the culmination of a precisely calibrated spiritual technology operating through her uniquely prepared vessel. One of the most telling clues about the hidden truth of Mary's origins lies in what's missing from biblical accounts. Have you ever wondered why the Gospels meticulously trace Joseph's genealogy back to King David and beyond, while Mary's lineage receives virtually no attention? This imbalance wasn't accidental, but part of a deliberate veil drawn over her true spiritual heritage. Those who compiled and edited the early Christian texts understood that revealing too much about Mary's extraordinary preparation might expose sacred knowledge to those who would misuse or distort it. This protective concealment was a common practice among mystery traditions throughout the ancient world. The most transformative spiritual technologies were always shielded behind layers of symbolism, myth, and selective omission, accessible only to those who had undergone proper preparation themselves. Mary's true story was considered so potent, so paradigm-shifting, that it needed this special protection until humanity reached a level of consciousness capable of receiving it without distortion. The revolutionary insight that emerges from these revelations is that Mary wasn't merely a supporting character in the Jesus story. She was the essential foundation upon which his entire mission was built. Understanding her sacred lineage transforms our perception of the divine project that culminated in Christ. Mary wasn't simply a biological necessity, but the centerpiece of a cosmic plan spanning ages, her preparation just as crucial as the mission of Jesus himself. This perspective restores balance to our understanding of the divine feminine and masculine principles at work in spiritual evolution. Mary embodied the receptive principle, the divine chalice perfectly formed to receive and nurture the light of Christ. Without her extraordinary preparation, that light could not have taken form in the physical dimension. Her role wasn't passive, but actively co-creative, her yes to Gabriel representing the essential feminine contribution to the greatest transformational event in human history. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring how Mary's past incarnations in specific ancient civilizations contributed to her unique spiritual capacity. The journey of her soul through Atlantis, Egypt, and other forgotten cultures reveals practical wisdom about how consciousness evolves through focused experience in different energetic environments. If you're beginning to see how the divine feminine principle has been deliberately obscured in spiritual history, write in the comments, "I honor the divine feminine." According to Cayce's remarkable visions, Mary's soul journey included several pivotal incarnations at crucial turning points in Earth's spiritual evolution. Among the most significant was her life in Atlantis during its final golden age, before the cataclysms that would eventually consume this advanced civilization. There, she served in what Cayce described as temples of healing and illumination, sacred centers where the highest spiritual technologies of that civilization were practiced and preserved. In her Atlantean incarnation, she wasn't merely a participant in these temples, but held the position of what might be translated as keeper of the crystal flame, a specialized priestess who worked with crystalline energies to facilitate healing, consciousness expansion, and interdimensional communication. This wasn't metaphorical work, but involved the practical application of advanced vibrational sciences, using precisely calibrated crystals, sound frequencies, and geometric configurations to channel and direct cosmic energies for spiritual and physical transformation. The extraordinary sensitivity that Mary would later need to receive the Annunciation and sustain the Christ energy during gestation was developed during these Atlantean experiences. Working daily with crystalline amplifications of divine frequencies gradually recalibrated her energy field, expanding its capacity to hold and transmit light without distortion. Think of it as spiritual strength training. Each exposure, building greater capacity like a muscle that grows stronger through consistent use. What makes this revelation particularly significant is that the Atlantean temples operated with a level of spiritual scientific precision largely lost to our modern world. They understood the exact vibrational requirements for consciousness to evolve beyond ordinary human limitations. Mary's soul absorbed this knowledge not just intellectually, but experientially, embedding it into her very essence across multiple Atlantean lifetimes. After the final destruction of Atlantis, many souls who had preserved its highest wisdom reincarnated in Egypt, establishing mystery schools that maintained fragments of the lost knowledge. According to Cayce, Mary's soul was among these wisdom keepers, incarnating as a priestess in the temples of Isis during one of Egypt's most spiritually vibrant periods. In this lifetime, she mastered the Egyptian understanding of subtle energy manipulation, learning how consciousness directly influences physical reality through focused intention aligned with cosmic principles. As an Isis priestess, she underwent initiations that few humans could endure, ritual deaths and rebirths in the Great Pyramid's King's Chamber, extended periods in darkness that activated extraordinary perceptual abilities, and sustained meditative states that dissolved the boundaries between her individual consciousness and universal awareness. These experiences weren't merely symbolic, but created actual neurological and energetic reconfigurations, preparing her vessel for its future purpose. The most transformative aspect of her Egyptian priestess training involved mastering what they called the sacred marriage, the perfect balance of divine feminine receptivity and divine masculine projection within a single being. This internal alchemy created a unique capacity to maintain complete surrender to cosmic will while simultaneously manifesting that will through focused intention. Precisely the spiritual technology required to later conceive and birth the Christ while remaining anchored in physical form. These ancient experiences weren't separate from Mary's life in Judea, but formed the invisible foundation upon which her final incarnation was built. The genuine mystery isn't how a simple peasant girl became the mother of Jesus, but how a soul of such extraordinary spiritual development chose to appear as a humble young woman in an obscure corner of the Roman Empire. If you recognize how ancient wisdom from lost civilizations continues to influence our spiritual understanding today, write in the comments, "Ancient knowledge never truly dies." Closer to her final incarnation, Mary's soul journeyed through another pivotal lifetime among the Essene communities, those mystical Jewish sects dedicated to exceptional purity and spiritual practice. During this incarnation, she absorbed disciplines of sustained meditation, sacred fasting, and energetic protection that proved essential for her ultimate mission. The Essenes understood something most religious practitioners didn't, that spiritual pressure requires extraordinary inner stabilization, like a vessel that must be reinforced to contain powerful energies without shattering. In the Essene communities, she mastered what they called the practice of unwavering presence, the ability to maintain complete spiritual alignment even when surrounded by chaos, discord, or dense energies. This training involved extended periods of isolation in caves or desert dwellings, where initiates would face their deepest shadows while holding connection to divine light. Think of it as spiritual pressure testing, deliberately creating conditions of extreme challenge to strengthen the soul's resilience and clarity. What's particularly fascinating about Mary's final incarnation is how her closeness to the Essene community wasn't random chance, but represented a profound soul reunion. According to Cayce's revelations, many of the Essenes who surrounded and supported Mary during her pregnancy and Jesus' early years had traveled with her soul across multiple lifetimes in Atlantis, Egypt, and beyond. They recognized her energetic signature on soul levels, even if their conscious minds didn't fully comprehend the magnitude of her mission. This soul group had made sacred agreements long before their births to reconvene at this crucial moment in human history, each playing specific supporting roles in the divine drama about to unfold. Some served as protectors, others as wisdom keepers, and still others as energetic stabilizers, creating a field of coherent intention that helped sustain Mary's extraordinary vibrational capacity during the unprecedented event of divine incarnation. The hidden truth that Cayce revealed goes even deeper. Throughout human history, ancient civilizations preserved visual prophecies about Mary's coming mission. These weren't mere artistic expressions, but deliberately encoded spiritual technologies. Paintings, reliefs, and temple inscriptions across widely separated cultures depicted a woman enveloped in light, holding either a child or a solar symbol. These images weren't simply religious art, but served as energetic blueprints and activation codes for souls connected to this divine project. In Egyptian temples, certain hieroglyphic sequences described "she who would birth the sun." Sumerian clay tablets depicted a star woman whose womb contained the light of all worlds. Even in pre-Columbian America, indigenous traditions spoke of a cosmic mother who would bridge heaven and earth through perfect surrender. The consistent appearance of these images across cultures, separated by vast distances and with no apparent contact, suggests they originated from a unified field of consciousness accessible to mystics across time and space. What's most remarkable is how these visual prophecies actually helped create the future they depicted. By maintaining specific vibrational patterns in the collective consciousness over thousands of years, they literally helped fashion the energetic conditions necessary for Mary's mission to manifest. This reveals a profound principle of cosmic co-creation. Images held with sustained sacred intention actually help shape reality itself. If you've ever felt inexplicably drawn to certain spiritual symbols or images from ancient traditions, write in the comments, "Sacred symbols speak directly to my soul." One of Cayce's most profound insights was his vision of Mary as a living bridge between vastly different spiritual eras and traditions. She wasn't merely a Jewish maiden who happened to birth Jesus, but represented a conscious link connecting ancient wisdom traditions to what would become Christian revelation. Through her, the esoteric knowledge of Atlantis, Egypt, and other forgotten civilizations flowed directly into the foundation of a new spiritual dispensation, ensuring that essential truths weren't lost, but transformed and preserved in new expressions. This perspective completely transforms how we understand divine revelation itself. Rather than seeing Christianity as something that emerged in isolation or in opposition to previous spiritual systems, we can recognize it as the next evolutionary unfoldment of wisdom that had been carefully preserved and transmitted through specially prepared vessels like Mary. The divine plan has never been limited to one people, one prophet, or one religion, but extends across the full tapestry of human spiritual development. Mary's extraordinary capacity didn't emerge from nowhere. It was the culmination of spiritual cultivation spanning oceans, temples, and entire civilizations. She embodied wisdom gathered through direct experience in the mystery schools of multiple cultures, integrated through the alchemical process of soul development across many lifetimes. Understanding this extensive preparation is essential to grasping the true magnitude of both her mission and Christ's purpose on earth. This broader perspective reveals why the virgin birth wasn't simply a miraculous anomaly, but represented the perfect convergence of spiritual technologies developed over millennia. Mary's vessel had been prepared through precisely calibrated experiences. Each initiation, each lifetime of service, each spiritual discipline contributing specific qualities necessary for her ultimate purpose. Just as a master instrument maker carefully selects and cures wood over many years before crafting a violin capable of extraordinary resonance, Mary's soul had been shaped through time to vibrate in perfect harmony with divine intention. Behind the scenes of physical reality, Cayce described an extraordinary event that preceded Mary's birth. In realms beyond our ordinary perception, a cosmic council of light, comprising highly evolved beings serving divine purpose, convened to discuss humanity's future and the crucial juncture it was approaching. This wasn't merely a metaphorical gathering, but an actual convergence of consciousness at levels where time operates differently than in our dimension. During this council, the decision was made to send a soul of exceptional development for a vital purpose, to create the perfect conditions for divine incarnation at precisely the moment when humanity most needed transformational light. This planning occurred in spiritual realms long before Mary's physical conception, with careful consideration of all factors necessary for success, from astrological alignments to political conditions, from the specific genetic lineage to the supporting soul group that would incarnate around her. What's particularly revolutionary about this understanding is how it reveals the exquisite intentionality behind what appears in historical accounts as a simple story of divine intervention. Nothing about Mary's life or Jesus' birth was accidental or improvised. Each detail, from the humble circumstances of her marriage to Joseph to their journey to Bethlehem, was part of a meticulously orchestrated divine strategy designed to create specific vibrational conditions for the Christ consciousness to anchor into physical reality. If you're beginning to glimpse how the universe operates with profound intentionality behind the apparent randomness of human events, write in the comments. Divine orchestration is everywhere. The divine orchestration extended to even the most seemingly mundane details of Mary's incarnation, including her family of origin. Her parents, Joachim and Anne, weren't selected by chance or mere genetic compatibility. According to Cayce's revelations, they carried specific bloodlines whose vibrational signatures were precisely calibrated to support Mary's extraordinary spiritual purpose. These bloodlines had been carefully maintained through generations, often without the conscious knowledge of the families themselves, guided by subtle influences from spiritual guardians operating behind the veil of ordinary reality. What made Joachim and Anne ideal vessels wasn't merely their genetic heritage, but the exceptional quality of devotion and love they embodied. Their home created a nurturing environment of unusually high frequency, a sanctuary where Mary's developing consciousness could remain connected to her divine purpose, even while incarnating into physical form. This love-saturated environment was as essential to her preparation as any formal spiritual training she would later receive. The extraordinary nature of Mary's birth didn't go unnoticed by those with eyes to see. Celestial signs accompanied her entry into the world. Stars shining with unusual brilliance, alignments of planets that hadn't occurred for thousands of years, and atmospheric phenomena that wise ones across multiple traditions recognized as heralding the arrival of a being of profound spiritual significance. These weren't merely astronomical coincidences, but cosmic announcements, nature itself responding to the incarnation of a soul whose presence would forever alter humanity's spiritual trajectory. Ancient records speak of a night when the stars seemed to dance, when aurora-like lights appeared even in southern regions where they're rarely seen, when animals fell silent in apparent reverence. These signs weren't recorded in mainstream historical accounts, but were preserved in esoteric traditions and oral histories, passed down through generations of mystics who understood their significance. They recognized these phenomena as the universe's acknowledgement that a pivotal soul had arrived, one whose mission would bridge heaven and earth. Even the name Mary carried layers of hidden meaning that reinforced her cosmic purpose. In various ancient traditions, the root syllables of her name connected to concepts like she who carries the light or Lady of the purifying waters. This wasn't coincidental, but represented another strand in the tapestry of divine preparation. Names in ancient cultures weren't casually assigned, but were understood as vibrational keys that could activate specific potentials within the soul. Mary's name literally resonated with her mission as the bearer of Christ's transformational energy. The preparation behind Mary's incarnation reveals a level of divine precision that challenges our conventional understanding of spiritual unfoldment. Nothing about her birth or life circumstances was left to chance. Every detail, from her family lineage to her cultural context, from her name to the community that would surround her, had been foreseen and prepared since time immemorial. This meticulous orchestration demonstrates that Jesus' coming wasn't a divine afterthought or response to human failure, but part of a universal plan of extraordinary sophistication. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring how Mary's extraordinary consciousness preparation enabled her to hold space for the most powerful transformational energy ever to incarnate on earth. The Annunciation wasn't simply a moment of angelic visitation, but the activation of spiritual technologies that had been embedded within her being across multiple lifetimes. If you sense that your own birth and life circumstances might contain hidden purpose beyond what appears on the surface, write in the comments, "My life is part of a divine design."